Hi, this is Roger. Thanks for dropping by. Just going to have a quick look round the garden. Been doing some work out here today. The last time Hannah was down, she's little bit overzealous with the pruners. I'd actually let the extensions on the wisteria grow up to the top of the fence and trimmed them. And the idea was that they would bush out. Well, Hannah decided that they shouldn't be there, so they're gone. So be it. She does a lot of work in the garden, and when things are not quite how I want it, tough. You know, the alternative is I have to do it all myself. Coming up round here, we've got the first of the phlox to come into bloom. This is from Carol. Now I got these round the wrong way because I thought this was the phlox, all this, and it's obviously not. The lower growing ones are the phlox, and all this therefore must be Michaelmas daisies, and I don't remember them being that high, but so we've still got those to come. Obviously these are going to be late summer into autumn blooming, so that'll be good. The rose is not doing that well at all. It hasn't taken kindly to being cut back. Maybe it will come again next year, but if you look at the base of the plant, a lot of the plant is actually dead. There's only one growth on it that's actually alive, and that's got one tiny little shoot, so that's not doing very well. I might lose that. I won't be sad if it disappears. I'm always getting prickled by the flipping thing. The Cymbidium orchids now have been moved so that they get some late summer into autumn sun. That helps ripen the bulbs and encourage the spikes, which we'll get later. Now, round the corner here, I'm not going to move everything out the way. That shrub there that's been pruned back quite hard is now coming into bloom, and the bees absolutely love that white blossom. Absolutely love that. What else? These are still looking nice. They seem to enjoy some of the sun they get. Sarracenias, permanently standing in water, that's how they are. This geranium here, when Hannah was down I had a chat and I said, how do you feel about making an attempt to get rid of this ivy? And she said, well, getting rid of the ivy out of the bed might not be a bad idea, but not off of we call it a wall. Underneath there is some sort of support that holds that ivy up high. That would have to stay. But to get rid of this was an idea that we looked at, and perhaps possibly for next year. The problem is I really don't want to lose this geranium, because this geranium puts on a good show of blooms. So we'll have to see about that. That's to be decided. Now the work that I've been doing is coating up the shed, which is not working as well as I wanted it to, but this is the old piece of wood that used to sit in there. Down behind the shed is a hole in the fence that Mojo could actually get out, and if he got out he'd be away somewhere into fairyland, and given that he's deaf I wouldn't be able to call him back. He could easily get totally lost, so that had to be blocked up. In conjunction with the fence post being broken, the idea was to get this large piece of heavy-duty ply screwed into the sturdy timber of the shed and the post. So that's been done, and I've started to coat up the shed. This is the bit that's not working as well. Where the bare wood was, that's the colour of the stain. Where the old stain hadn't been worn off to bare wood, the stain's not covering it. It's like transparent. So I'm going to always have two colours. It's always going to look like that. Maybe the sun will fade it. But today, obviously everything's just all squashed up here out the way at the moment. Obviously I need to get at the shed. I've got three days of consecutive good weather at the moment, so I need to get this shed finished. So today, previous to today, this bare wood was coated up, and that had its first coat. That's all I did. today that had a second coat, and all of this side had a coat. So this bare wood had its second coat, this had its first coat. And the front, today, I coated up the bare wood, so that's had its first coat. The original colour hasn't been touched yet. So tomorrow this will get another coat, and all of this will get its first coat, second coat on the bare wood. So that's what I've been up to. Yeah, I don't think this shed's ever going to look brilliant. I mean, it's rotten in places, you can see. Yeah, I mean, this is like paper down here. You poke your finger through it. I'm hoping that at least a coat of stain will make it last a little bit longer. It's not, it's not my shed. I mean, I'm just trying to hold it together so that all of my stuff that's inside doesn't get coated in water where it leaks everywhere. So that's what I've been up to. There's not much else going on out here. Oh, I will, if I can get in there. Oh, I can't get in there now. The last lot of planting we did was, a few bits of ground cover in that area there. One of the items, whatever it's called, I don't know, that sort of variegated one, that's got blooms on. And the rest of it is starting to clump up. So I'm hoping that whole area will eventually be plants and not weeds. Ow. Yeah, so the sedum will be out soon. You can see the colour coming. This scabious is good. That's doing well. The geum, I think, has probably finished for the year, and it didn't do anywhere near as well this year as last year. The red valerian is finishing now. There'll still be a few blooms, I suspect. But the seeds are on here. I'm just allowing them to hopefully self-seed in this area. The actual seeds that I planted along here, there's no sign of life there yet, but they haven't been in there long. Yeah, this area here, if you look here, lots of little bits of ground cover. All of that is come on, forget-me-nots. That's self-seeded forget-me-nots. That's the two older clumps, the ones that started it all. Forget-me-nots in here. There's the odd weed. And what's quite impressive is the amount of thyme that's actually self-seeded and grown on. All of this is self-seeded. Here. All along here. So, and over here too. That bit was planted. That's self-seeded, as are those two large clumps. There's another large clump in the paving up there. There's a bit round there, including a weed. So there's quite a lot of self-seeding going on. And this bluey grey coloured ground cover stuff that I bought, I planted it there and there. Well, I didn't plant it there, I didn't plant it there, I didn't plant it there, there or there. Or there. So stuff is just spreading around in these gravel beds. The trouble is, in amongst it are weeds, and it's up to me to keep my eye out and stop any of the weeds ever coming into flower. That's the goal, which means eventually they should die out. So this yellowy green ground cover that I bought, I'm sure that was supposed to flower. Well, it hasn't yet. There was some that side and some this side. And when Hannah was down, her next job was to trim this ivy back. And it just got too hot. It was just too much. She gets migraines if she gets too hot. So we went indoors, so that job didn't get done. It's something I can do, it's not something I have to have help with. So, yeah, but I think once the shed is coated up and the felt is put on the roof. I'm dreading trying to paint the fence, but if I don't, it's just going to be the tatty bit in the garden. I'm not doing that part of the fence. That's a totally different thing. That's natural wood. That stays as it is. But those two panels there go with the shed. They were done the same colour. I'm not looking forward to doing that, but I suppose to get this corner looking nice, it's going to have to be done basically. So I will plod away with it, and the shed and that section of the fence will be done by the end of this year. So we shall get on with it. Now, I did a lot of looking things up on the internet to get plants that warranted, pollinators. So butterflies, bees, hoverflies, all that sort of stuff. And I deliberately selected plants, and some have not worked. The things that have worked best, the lavender. A star performer as far as bees and butterflies are concerned. Things that haven't worked very well, this ground cover. There was one type of bee seemed to like it when it was in flower. It's going to seed now. The buddleias haven't been as successful as I would have liked, but then they didn't bloom as well this year. We might go back to the original idea of pruning them hard back, because I semi-pruned them this time to get the blooms earlier, and unfortunately the blooms then came in what's called the gap, the butterfly gap. When the spring and early summer butterflies are around, buddleia's not in bloom. But when the next lot come in August, the buddleia should be in bloom. The way I pruned it, it bloomed early. So I'm now waiting for the second set of blooms. So the geum doesn't attract anything. So that was bought for a splash of colour. The red valerian, I haven't seen anything on it. Bees, butterflies or hoverflies. This I've seen a few bees on now and again, but I wouldn't say it was attracting them. This doesn't seem to attract anything, but again that was bought for colour. Lavender, brilliant. The sedum will come into its own when it actually comes into bloom. The bit of scabious that I bought, which is a hybrid of our wild scabious, that is a success. I've had butterflies, bees and hoverflies on that already, and it hasn't even been there long. So next year that will be a bigger, better plant. That does well. Again over here, the rosemary is an early bloomer, that's early spring. That was very successful. That will bloom incredibly well next year because it's been pruned properly. So in other words, it got pruned quite hard after blooming, and now all of this new growth that it's put on this year will bloom, and that will be early nectar for bees and things. Oh, look at the size of that dragonfly. I doubt if I can see to zoom in on it. I will try anything once. The trouble is I don't know whether I'm looking at it or not. It's just above the shadow. So in theory, it's in the middle of the screen somewhere, but I can't see what I'm doing. Anyway, maybe you can see it, but that's a big one. Let's just come in. Yeah, so things that have been a success, the lavender, bees are on it now, yeah, and quite a few different types of bees. So, and the perpetual wallflower that has those purple blooms on, that's been quite successful. That's had butterflies, bees and hoverflies. But quite a lot of things have not performed as well as the ancient scrolls said they would. So nonetheless, I think the variety of blooms and the different colours and the different types, it makes the garden more interesting, even if some of those don't attract the bees and butterflies. But then we haven't had many bees and butterflies this year to sort of prove the point. Oh, and the I've forgotten what this stuff's called again. This with the feathery foliage and the blooms, they're starting to grow over now. They've been in bloom a long time though, but they haven't attracted much, not really. Haven't been much coming on those. The catmint, that has bees on it, and if you have a look now you might be able to see it. There's a little, it's called a mint moth. It's a day flying moth. Let's see if he'll come back. And he's gone into the shadows. I'll see if I can go around there. But they're very tiny, and they make me laugh actually, because oh, I can't see him. He's gone into the plant. But on the Butterflies and Moths Facebook group that I'm signed up for, almost every day this time of year somebody posts a picture of a mint moth and said, could I have an ID for this please? Well, don't they ever look at the group? You know, if they had a look at yesterday's, there would be people saying it's a mint moth. People just aren't prepared to do any work now. They want everything on a plate. Ugh. And I need to do some work on my bonsai now. Mainly getting the moss out of the pots. This is the worst one over here, this little juniper. But I do need to do a bit of work on the bonsai. Coming soon. If you look at my Scots pine, that looks awful at the moment, but that's all the old needles. They need rubbing off. You just sort of rub your hand in amongst the foliage and they all fall off. And then you can see what's going on. And a lot of this year's candles need trimming back to get the back budding and thicken up the pads again. So I do need to do some work on the bonsai. That will be coming soon and will obviously be filmed. So there we go. That's just a quick look round. And I'm hoping that once the shed is coated up, several more coats, the colour will blend. So the colour where the original stain was and the colour where the bare wood was, hopefully will blend better together as time goes on. I think if you look at the side, the difference between the two is not as great as on the front, where only the bare wood's been coated. But remains to be seen. That's what it's going to get, you know. I mean, I will probably keep putting coats on until I run out of stain. We shall see. So there we go. That's as it is at the moment. And yeah, I'm still enjoying the garden. Mojo likes sitting out here in the sun. It's still a nice relaxing place to be, and once I get this shed sorted out and then I can start putting the tubs back where I want them, get the bench round the other way, hopefully I can spend quite a bit of time out here taking advantage of the last of the summer rays as we head towards autumn. And then obviously the sun that doesn't come in the garden anywhere near as much once we get into autumn. And once we get into winter, there's hardly any sun in the garden at all, because the house and things are in the way. You know, it's just the way the garden faces. Anyway, see you next time. Thanks for dropping by.